And welcome to the New Year edition of Business Week, the program that brings you top business stories that made the headlines during the course of this week, including special news features, market data, interviews, and much more. Welcome to the show. Well, let's now bring you some of the highlights of the biggest stories we tracked for you over the course of this week. On the local front, the Nigerian economy lost crude oil valued at about 556 billion naira between August and October this year due to pipeline vandalism, community interferences, sabotage of oil facilities, and much more. And still staying with the energy sector, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission says it is set to close out the 2020 marginal field bid round program. And in other reports, the World Bank has warned Nigeria and other emerging economies to think twice before raising electricity tariffs, as such steps will push inflation further in the year 2022. And on the international front, US retail sales rose 8.5% during last year's holiday shopping season from November the 1st to December the 24th, powered by soaring e-commerce sales. Tesla Incorporation's Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk has also exercised all of his options expiring this year, signaling an end to stock sales that triggered a fall in the share price of the world's most valuable car maker. And Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak says OPEC Plus has resisted calls from Washington to boost output because it wants to provide the market with clear guidance and not deviate from the policy. Well, on that note, it's now time to bring you some special packages prepared by our correspondents.
Despite witnessing the busiest season of the year, the pickup section of the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, Lagos, is as clear as the day. Motorists and passengers are being forced to use the fee-for-service car parks. More than ever, the traffic enforcement team is taking their words seriously, ready to arrest any recalcitrant driver or passenger. With their mandate comes an air of responsibility. If you're caught, you can pay as much as 10,000 naira even if you're a commercial or private car owner. Recently, a published report suggested the car parks are unsafe for travelers and vehicles. The report further stated that for the third time in less than a week, the Seymour Aviation multi-level car park at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, had recorded multiple vandalization of vehicles at the fee-for-service facility. A visit to the car parks at the domestic and international wing of the Murtala Mohammed Airport paints a different picture. As you drive into the car park opposite the MM2 airport, you see the tariff you're expected to pay. From our interactions with commercial cab drivers, the parks are safe. The tariff gets higher at the international wing. Cars pay 650 naira for the first hour, then an hourly 100 naira to top the fee. This multi-level car park managed by the Seymour Aviation was referred to as being unsafe, a claim dismissed by one of the workers there. In a statement released by the General Manager Corporate Affairs of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, security at the car park facility has been beefed up. The agency noted that contrary to social media reports, the car park is safe for travelers and vehicles. But the controversy still lies in these words: cars parked at owner's risk, a statement posted on walls. The question is, why should a traveler pay so much for his car to be parked at his own risk?
Report of the Joint Appropriation Committee of the House.
The proposed Lagos 2022 budget going through another round of legislative tinkering on the floor of the House on Wednesday. Chairman House Committee on Budget, Economic and Planning, Bolahon Ishao, read out the report of the Joint Committee saddled with the responsibility of looking at the money bill. Having read the recommendations of the committee, there were observations made, which is an increase in the initial proposed budget size recommended by the committee. In the recommendations of the committee, there was an increase of about 400 billion in the budget. Concerns were raised on how the budget will be funded.
I see the committee increasing the proposed budget by almost 400 billion naira.
Having dotted the I's and crossed the T's, a budget size of 1.758 trillion was passed by the House.
All in favor say aye. Those against nay, the ayes have it.
The size of the budget going up is budget compliance by ensuring that borrowings that the state has already carried out during this year are reflected in the budget. Monies that the state cannot spend this year are rolled over into next year's budget. Balances of accounts of MDAs are also accounted for in next year's budget. So you can call it increase, but they are almost like rolling over cash. And all of them are capital expenditure, which is why we have a 66% capital to 34% recurrent. And don't forget also that we needed to put money in health, which is very important. Environment is very key. Got a lot of money. Our road infrastructure is very, very important. Drainages, this year we opened up a lot of drainage cleaning contracts by award, so balances need to be paid next year. So I think Lagos State will still be, should I say, construction site, as they put it.
On 24th of November, the state governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, had presented a proposed budget size of 1.388 trillion naira, which he tagged a budget of consolidation.
Well, it's now time to bring you the feature on the show today as we take a look at the state of the economy through the lens of Nigeria's public debt stock and its impact on the future of the economy this year. Many thanks for still staying with us. It's now time to bring you the crux of today's discourse. The federal government hopes to push its public debt stock to 50.22 trillion naira come the year 2023, with domestic debt at 28.75 trillion naira and external debt at 21.47 trillion naira. Well, that's according to projections in the National Development Plan 2021 to 2025. The Debt Management Office has also disclosed that Nigeria's public debt is pegged at about 38 trillion naira as of the third quarter of last year, with the total debt stock rising 2.54 trillion naira in 3 months from July to September 2021. This shows that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari plans to accumulate about 12 trillion naira debt in 2 years from 2021 to 2023. However, based on the plan, the government targets a reduction in total public debt by 2025, and a tabular illustration in the document shows that government targets that 9.59 trillion naira debt stock for 2021, 46.63 trillion naira for 2022, 50.22 trillion naira for 2023, 50.53 trillion naira for 2024, and 45.96 trillion naira for 2025. The government also discloses that it needs money to finance plans for 348.1 trillion naira, and the borrowing framework in the plan is 45% each for domestic and foreign debt as well. Well, joining me now to discuss this and more, I have economist Adeola Ojo. Many thanks for joining us on the show today, and a happy new year to you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Well, let's start off analyzing this report and concerns around the volume of our borrowing we have today. The bigger conversation lies really on the fact that it is imperative for government to ensure debt obligations are sustainable by creating assets and value that justify the ballooning debt stock. This, according to some, is the only validation that should be. Do you share in this sentiment, going by the track record we've also had so far?
Yeah, I think it's correct. That is the way to go. That suggestion is actually the way to go, because for every naira or kobo or dollar that is procured in public debt, there should be a commensurate platform to pay back the debt. And that's why they look at the issue of infrastructure or assets or in the context of getting those loans, so that you can actually get a way to finance the loan that is being taken. And that's why many people are actually talking all over, and they are shouting at our government that the way we are taking the loans, we are not considering the repayment plan. Though the federal government has spoken in one way or the other, but I believe that is the way to go. Because every dollar that is taken, we should have a commensurate platform to pay back that loan. And that is just the way to go.
And now, part of the problems highlighted by the business community is the fact that we've also seen debt, or expect that debt service to revenue generation is expected to hit about 80% in 2022. Do you see a shift in the stance of government in the reality of our growing debt? Invariably, the stance of revenue challenges mean we have to borrow more. And when we don't make enough money, we have growing debt stares us in our face and a crisis. Do you think we'll likely see government take account for how huge the debt records are and then begin to shift a stance on the level of crisis we have?
Not at all. Looking at the antecedents of this government, since they came into power in 2015, up to the time of the recession in 2016, then to 2017, when this ballooning loan issue came about. Since 2017, they've had a pensions for loan, and they have been taking it without abatement. And even from the plan that they have designed, especially for the MTF, medium-term expenditure framework, it has also been put in that plan that for this year, next year budget, which is already in the works, and even for 2023, that they are going to get loan. And indeed, from even the way they have planned it, in the next 2 years, they are still looking at procuring about 12 trillion naira worth of loan to finance the budget. And they now said in 2024 or 2025, the thing will pound down. And so I'm not expecting a shift in the plan of government, especially as it regards procurement of loan. They have that penchant for it, and that's why every day, every time, they defend this. That, oh, it is still beyond the lower level, it's not up to the GDP debt ratio and every other thing. So they have that penchant for it, and they are going for it. Even when those who are in their government are advising against the issue of getting loans, they still continue. They are still even into it. Mr. Salami, Professor Salami, the head of the economic team, spoke about it. Biswa Eriwane, in his analysis, also spoke against it. But our government, they have not listened. And these are people in the economic team of the federal government of Nigeria. So I have not seen any change or any desire within them to even to make a change in the next 3 years. I already, let me even say they have 1 year officially, because the next, in 2023, they only have about 5 months to be in government. So I don't see a change. And there's no change even in the offing as of now.
And still looking more into our current revenue challenges as well, we cannot but continue to sound the note of thinking outside the box with revenue generation alternatives. What are some of the blind spots you think government needs to take on much more aggressively?
There have been many things that have been touted. One is for the federal government of Nigeria to widen the tax net, because majority of the income of the federal government outside crude oil should actually be from taxation. And we have many people within this country that are not paying taxes, the correct measure of taxes. So we should widen the tax net and also the tax base, as the case may be, if that should be. Then we should also encourage exportation. Because by the time we have such in place and people make correct payment where necessary, and they also bring in money where necessary, government will have more funds to run with. Then number 3, we also should give credence, especially instead of external debt, that is getting money from the external sources, we should look inward. There are so many projects that the federal government ought not to be involved in at all. There are so many projects that, for example, in my organization, we work with governments to finance projects for them. And at the end, the projects will deliver it to government, and it generates revenue for government, those government agencies. Then from there, from that generation, they can pay us our own commission. and the government continue on. They begin to make money from that. That means whatever they have to bring on board, it is not they don't need any capital. The private sector provides it. They deliver that project, and government can partner with them. Then they begin to make money out of it, their revenue out of it, without having to commit any form of capital. They don't need to take any loan to finance it, especially as it regards, for example, the railway that we have in place. We say, okay, this amount of money is being taken to finance a railway project, and at the end of the month, they say it's the one from Lagos to Ibadan, for example, you have given, let's say, about $10 billion or $16 billion to finance that project, and that project is generating 360 million every month for you. And in a matter of a year, you see how much it's going to generate for you. Whereas you have taken a loan of $10 billion, which you are going to be servicing every year. So that is a project that a private sector could provide, which you can partner with. So government does not need to take that $10 billion or $16 billion to finance the railway project, when the private sector can come in to do that. So I want to advise the federal government that there are so many projects they do not need to get involved in. And there are some projects that they should get involved in. So the one that they should get involved in, they should do. The one they are not supposed to get involved, they should leave it for the private sector or partner with them. Then, in another way, instead of them to go and be getting the kind of loan, because most of the time when they take this loan, they come back and tell us stories. Oh, no, it is just 5%. We have a moratorium of 7 years. We have a moratorium of 10 years. And at the end of this period, we still see that after 2 years, they start payment on this debt. That is in interest that is payable on the debt. So as a result of that, we put ourselves in limbo. We put ourselves under challenges. Why? Because our federal government, they are not doing things rightly. So I want to say that federal government of Nigeria have a whole lot of ways they could actually get money. One, like I've said, apart from all the ones I've mentioned earlier, please. So just the federal government of Nigeria should engage the people, widen the tax net. That is one. Number two, they should create more avenues for export. Number three, they should partner with the private sector to deliver this project. And number four, they should, in one way or the other, find alternative sources of financing their loan. And also, let me just, number five thing is to cut down on recurrent, because most of the revenue that we have been generating, like what the finance minister said, was for example, 3 trillion that came in. He said most of it goes for recurrent payment, that is payment of salaries and overheads. That means at no time will government be able to have money to do any other thing like capital project until they have to go out there and source for loan. So those recurrent, that overhead and recurrent expenditure, they can stem it or bring it down. Then the last one is for them to work on the inflation in the economy.
And under the scope of corruption and illicit financial flows, some school of thought argue with such recoveries we've had and following the money as well, we don't need all these excessive borrowings. Instead, we need proper accounts for all of these monies recovered and also nipping the bud illicit financial flows. Your thoughts on these elements?
I think, to add to the last part of my answer, corruption is also a thing that has been a challenge. That's one of the reasons that we're having fiscal deficit continuously in this country. Money that is meant to be used to do a particular project is stolen and fleeced or taken across the border to another country and kept in a safe haven. So as a result of that, what should have been used to do a particular project, we see that project being done 4 years continuously for about another 4 years or 10 years, or by different government coming in to come and do them. So that is one aspect. Then the issue of illicit fund, we already know that the CBN is actually working in tandem with EFCC to make sure they're able to stem that. And I think we should give both organs of government the necessary backup or backing to be able to deliver. Because this, like they used to say, this is a general problem. And if something is general, that is going to affect all, then it's a thing for us all to look at and find a way to stem. Because corruption does a whole lot of harm to any economy that we can imagine. Things that money that should have been given to education, that should have been given to hospital or for health care, and it is stolen. It actually has a lot of may effect even upon the economy. So I think it's a thing that the federal government of Nigeria, the Monetary Authority, and the EFCC and ICPC should come in to help stem. They have come up with a lot of models to be able to stem this, but unfortunately, it seems as if the way we manage or monitor it has not been able to be fully effective. One of which is this issue of what is single treasury that we have in place. Nobody should pay into any other account or except to one singular account. So if we have been able to monitor that aspect, we should be able to have been able to stem. But unfortunately, money is leaving that same account in droves, and we cannot. We could see that even happening in this country. Just of recent, we saw the number of about 40 billion naira or so that was kept in a particular account. And one state government was alleged that they were the one that kept the money. They said, no, it is not them. And up till now, nobody has been able to they even taken themselves to court over that matter. So a whole lot of things are happening in this country. And I've been able to relate with one or two of some set of government of people. And you could see the way and manner they run things over there. They still transfer money to private accounts. They still manage this money. They change naira to dollar just to be able to keep. There's a lot of things going on in this country. So I think the organs of government should stand up with the backing of the federal government of Nigeria, led by our able president, to please, within the remaining term of his office, stem this problem. The money that's living is among us, as we have been told. If we get a loan of $33 billion, about 2.2 billion of it, or 2 billion of it, goes into wrong hands. So, and eventually the economy will still come back to pay for it. So it's a thing for all of us to look at, and I beg them to please let us work on this to be able to stem this problem.
And wrapping up our conversation now, how do you think we can begin to silence the noise of corruption and exploitative tendencies every time the conversation around borrowing is brought up? We need to develop more data-centric implementation markers and see what impact of fund value we accrue from these borrowings, wouldn't you say?
Sir, transparency in Nigeria is a word that we carry, but we do not follow through. Because there are various checks and balances at different organs of government. One, before a loan is taken, it is one of the major attributes of it is that the MDA or the organ or the office or the ministry that is in charge, that wants to take that loan, takes the matter up with the ministry or the Federal Ministry of Finance and the National Debt Management Office to look at why do we need this loan. Then at the end, they also bring the matter. After they have agreed, okay, they bring it to Federal Executive Council for consideration. And the Federal Executive Council, having looked at all the matters with the terms and conditions of getting the loan, they approve. Then from there, the federal government will transmit it to the Senate or to the National Assembly for consideration. Over there too, there are supposed to be levels of checks and balances. But most of the time, what we see, for example, even up to the last one, they have approved the loan. But they now said they should send the terms and conditions of those loans to them after they have given the approval. Those are the things they ought to have considered. Okay, this loan you want to take, what are the terms? What are the conditions that are going around it? You know, it's been touted around that, oh, when you take loan from China and you default, the possibility of your asset being taken is considered. Is it part of the terms and conditions of getting the loan we want to get? Those are the things they consider. But our National Assembly will not, like from the last example that I have given, have not done that. They have given the approval before they say bring the terms and conditions. That means we could actually put our Commonwealth for sale without, because our people have not done the necessary things. So that is another thing. Then the issue of transparency comes into being. There was a time Bosch IT, one of the IT companies in Nigeria, decided to be following our project, the budget, the way they are. Okay, if you say, okay, I want to do a bridge on Lagos, Kano, or whatever, or a bridge, or maybe let's say Second Niger Bridge, they follow through. Okay, this money that has been released, as there have been a project. But do you know one thing, sir? When they came out with their results, more than 90% of the project we say we are doing, sir, the projects are non-existent. If at all they exist, they are shoddily done. I want to appeal to our government. The time, although this is the last of the period, but the time has come for us to work on this. Sir, Mr. Alabi, please also let us look at this, sir. I just want to emphasize this. if every year, because since last year now, we have been paying like 98 something percent last time. Now we are almost paying 98% of our revenue to service loan. And that is the reason why the government is coming by the day to say we need 6 trillion, we need $20 billion to finance our projects for next year, for this number of period. And they are getting more loans. And they are telling us that after 2023, that is by 2025, the loan will stop or will reduce. Okay? I want to let you know that it will not be, because the new government that comes into play, we also want to do projects. They will go for more. And we are going to have a situation that we don't have a debt trap for the economy. So this is time for us to look at this and please avoid debt trap or having to take this loan. And the last part of what I want to say is that they even take this loan. You cannot point to what they are using it to do. We cannot point to something tangible that they are using this loan to do.
Thank you very much for your time on the show. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And once again, Happy New Year to you.
I appreciate it, sir.
Well, just before we go now, here are graphic details of the latest transport fare watch is prepared by the National Bureau of Statistics. And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Business Week. Many thanks for joining us on the show today. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and a happy and prosperous new year to you. I'm David Alabi.